In the 90s, having a guest star in a comic became so cliche that it was almost the opposite of the sales bump that it was trying to achieve. People saw the guest star of Wolverine, for example, as a sign the title was in a lot of trouble and was probably about to be canceled. So, why do the companies keep doing it? Hey everybody, this is Perch. The idea of the guest star in a comic book is not a new one. It's gone on for a long, long time, and it really kind of peaked in the late '80s and '90s when even the comic publishers would say, we need some sales. Here comes Wolverine, and they would promote it that way inside the kind of the solicitations for the next issue, or sometimes even on the cover. And as time went by, generally Wolverine and Spider-Man were the big ones that would come in, but any kind of character that was achieving even a mild amount of popularity. I remember the New Warriors got to guest star because they were seen as big. And then sometimes it felt like the guest starring that Marvel was doing was more hopeful than anything. It's like, hey, Speedball is going to be in this next issue. Huh? You like Speedball? Yeah, no. And then eventually that segued into Deadpool, where Deadpool was guest starring in everything, and this was kind of the 2000 era where it's just Deadpool everywhere. And then they've tried it with Miss Marvel and others. And it's funny because I think consistently from 91 on, nobody was really clamoring for this. Like, I always felt like the comic publishers were thinking, hey, this is really going to get people into the shops. People are going to get excited. Oh, Wolverine showing up next issue. Awesome. And it was never the case. Like, I can't remember, and I'm sure there was one, but I can't remember a single instance where a customer came in and said, hey, can you reserve this next issue of, whatever it might be. I'd like that next issue of Power Pack because Wolverine's going to be guest starring in it. I saw that he's there, so I need to make sure I collect that. That's never how it worked. Now, certainly some comics that have guest stars rose up in value. It definitely happened. But it was always after the fact that people suddenly realized they needed this comic and they were coming in looking for it. There was none of this kind of before the comic hit the stands feeling that they were on the verge of getting a collector's edition because someone was guest starring in it. But again, I've gone to retailer summits, I've gone to cons, I've talked to the people at the publisher, and it's funny because there's this, the creators seem to not really care. In fact, in more recent years, I would say in the last 10 years, the creators are just happy to play with whatever toys they can play with in the toy box. So if they can get Wolverine into a story and they've wanted to write Wolverine, then super, it's great. The editors will talk about, bringing in guest stars and everything, but almost with a sense of exhaustion. And maybe I'm reading into it a little bit, but the editors are like, yeah, sure. But the bigger company reps, at the higher level, they're always like, yeah, we're going to bring in Wolverine. It's going to jack some sales. And I always wondered if they looked at the sales. Because, even yourself, you can go to Comic-Con and you can look at, you have to do a little bit of, digging, but you go find an issue of any comic, New Warriors. I'm going to stick on that one today. I don't know why. But go find a comic and then go look it up when they had the guest star. Look up the before and during and after of a guest appearance, and you don't see a sales boost. And that's consistent over and over and over again. You will see there's no rise in sales for these guest appearances, but they kept doing it anyway. DC, I'm picking on Marvel here. DC certainly does it as well. Not to the same extent, or at least DC will do guest stars. We see kind of the same oversaturation of characters like Harley Quinn or Batman. Batman's guest appearances always felt so weird and awkward. It's like somebody got the cliff notes of what Batman was. They suddenly Batman shows up and he's in the shadows and he's like, I'm watching you. And it's like the stereotype Batman. It's not even a good. It just doesn't even fit. In fact, most of the guest appearances often proves that the writer handling it does not know what to do with these characters. Back when Wolverine was guest starring and everything, you had the Chris Claremont way of writing Wolverine, and then you had every other person's way, which was always like two-dimensional and like I'm here to stab. It's just I was before I got ready for this video, I was trying to think what guest appearances were actually good that I really remember loving, and I know they're out there. It'll come to me kind of long after this is done when the video is processing. I'm like, oh yeah, that one. But generally, they were always painful. They always felt like a very special episode of Full House, where Aunt McGee comes to visit. I don't know if that's a character. I'm thinking not, but it never plays off well. But at the company level, the people higher up were just completely positive that it was a good idea. And this came to my attention, several weeks ago. Tom Brevoort was making he's doing his thing about where there's a Twitter account that's pretty cool that posts kind of here's what came out today. I think it's the Spinner Rack, or I don't know. Here's some comics that come out. It posts some covers, and a bunch of creators were like, "Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I took that one. Yeah." And old Tom almost always, like 9 times out of 10, comes in and it's like, "I didn't buy any of these." It's cool. Okay, good for you, man. But there was a comment made about, "Oh, this had a guest appearance to boost the sales," and I want to get somebody in senior management to sit across from me at a table and just say, yeah, it's an in-joke. We know it doesn't do that. We want the characters to proliferate inside the other comics. We want to have a big shared universe. That's why we do it. But it's kind of our tongue-in-cheek joke whenever we say we're boosting the sales, because we know it doesn't do any of that. We know we know it does not save a title. I mean, if it did, like you'd have whoever the most popular Marvel characters did. I mean, like the Immortal Hulk is doing well, and you've got over here you've got the Unstoppable Wasp comic that's about to be canceled. It's like, hey, let's get Hulk in here to smash up some science. Let's do it. I mean, shoot, I'd be doing it. Like I said, DC has done it as well, but they seem to be a little less in on the joke. Meaning, when they do the guest appearance, they don't promote it like it's a cheap sales grab. Like, hey, we've got Wonder Woman over here, and she should be selling. I mean, I don't know why she's not, but she should be. But we've decided to throw in here like everybody we think you like Harley Quinn's going to show up on the island, and a bunch of other people. Deathstroke's going to be there for some reason. He's going to shoot some stuff, and I'm trying to make a joke here, but what's also interesting though is at the publisher level, both Marvel and DC in particular, I don't know that there are the major kind of epic will sell everywhere characters as much as there might have been. Now, it is true in the 80s and 90s that Wolverine was super popular, and you put him in a comic and you did 5 or 6 spin-offs and they would sell. But today, if you said, okay, put a character into a comic that is just going to guaranteed sell 100,000 copies. The creative team are unknown people, unknown writer, unknown artist, but we want to sell 100,000 copies, throw a character into a comic book. Who are you going to go with? At Marvel, probably because they've been doing it. It's Spider-Man, maybe. I don't think Wolverine has that kind of draw anymore. Deadpool definitely does not. I don't know if Marvel has that kind of character. I've heard some rumblings. It's like people, because of the popularity and the enthusiasm around Donny Cates' Thor comic, that Thor is that character, but I don't see it. I think that's the nature of the creative team. You can't just take Thor, throw him in that costume, have him show up and be like, I'm heavy metal, and then people are going to buy it. I don't think there's that must buy. And on DC side, I think the same thing. People say you can print money with Batman. I think that's very similar to Spider-Man. But you just put an unknown team on Batman and you throw out a Batman book. You're not going to get 100,000 copies. And there was a time in I think the late 80s and the early 90s where you could throw a Wolverine book out and sell 100,000 copies. Now, granted, that was a newsstand and everything else, but let's just assume the same distribution today was used back then. There's been these moments, but it's been a long time. A guaranteed seller character independent of the creative team. The creative team matters a lot more these days. But anyway, I've gone off track a little bit. Are there any guest appearances you remember from your comic collecting days that just really stood out as amazing to you? Do you buy a comic because of a guest appearance? How many people out there, just as an aside, maybe this is a bigger question, are going into a comic shop and just, I'll pick up this issue. What the hell? I didn't pick up issues 1 through 9, but issue 10, It's got Deadpool in it. Sure. Do you do that? Is that something people do? I don't know. Again, I ran a shop. I didn't see much of that. Generally speaking, if somebody came in kind of mid-run, they'd come in like, oh, let's just start a storyline. They'd start going back, trying to get the other issues and everything else. It was that jumping on point is a tough one. But that's a whole other video. Anyway, leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.